Valentine's Day 1994. Just before 8 p.m, firefighters arrive at a burning home in the Sydney suburb of Gladesville. Thick black smoke pours into the street. Flames are already forcing their way through the structure. They rush to the front door. It's locked. So, without hesitation, they break in. They begin searching, moving carefully through the house, calling out for anyone still alive. And then they find a body in the front living room, slumped over a couch. No burn marks, no smoke damage. The fire hasn't even reached this room. And in that moment, it becomes clear this isn't just a house fire. As firefighters push deeper inside, they're navigating blind through thick smoke. Then they turn a corner and freeze. There's another body, this one inside a room fully engulfed in flames. For a moment, there's still hope. A firefighter rushes in, grabs the body, and drags it back through the hallway. But halfway out, he sees the injuries, severe, unmistakable. This person is already dead, and just like that, there is no longer a rescue, it's a recovery. At first, everyone assumes the same thing, a tragic accident, a house fire, 2 people trapped inside. But almost immediately, investigators notice something that doesn't fit. The first victim, found on the couch, tells a very specific story. Her position suggests she either knew her attacker or never saw them coming. A closer look reveals head injuries, a contact gunshot wound executed at point-blank range. The second victim tells a completely different story. There are signs of a struggle, multiple shots fired, objects scattered, blood across the room, and then something even more disturbing, stab wounds, a slashed throat. This wasn't just violence, it was personal. 2 victims, 2 very different deaths. But one detail remains the same. Both were shot at close range. This wasn't random, this was deliberate. Outside the burning building, a man collapses in shock. He's just been told his partner is dead. His name is Mark Lewis, and the building that's on fire belongs to him, a massage parlor. Inside were 2 of his employees, including his partner, Kerry Pang. After being treated for shock, Mark is questioned, now composed. He says he has no idea what happened, no enemies, no explanation. But then he mentions something strange, a threat, not against him, against Kerry. "I'm going to kill your girlfriend. She doesn't deserve to live." Disturbing, but according to Mark, not unusual. Just part of the business. He says he warned Kerry. They met earlier that evening at another one of his parlors, talked things through, and later that night, he drove her back to Gladesville, dropped her off, kissed her goodbye, and left. 2 hours later, she was dead. As investigators dig deeper, they find a rifle in Mark's car. He admits it's his, but says Kerry had taken it for protection. Then later, he took it back. It sounds reasonable, but forensic testing reveals something critical. None of Mark's guns match the bullets from the scene. For a moment, he looks cleared, until his timeline falls apart. Mark claims he dropped Kerry off at 6:15 p.m, but phone records and witness statements say it was 7:15, just 12 minutes before firefighters arrived. Now his alibi doesn't protect him, it puts him there. Then another discovery, trace amounts of Kerry's blood on his clothing. At this point, it looks like they have their man, but there's a problem. No murder weapon, no direct proof, and without that, the case stalls. Nearly 2 years pass with nothing. Then a tip comes in, an informant. He claims he spoke to someone bragging, not Mark Lewis, someone else, a name that had never appeared anywhere in the investigation, Lindsey Rose. At first glance, nothing stands out. Minor offenses, no violent history, not the profile of a killer. But then something small changes everything. At the crime scene, investigators had found a broken piece from a pair of glasses. At the time, it meant nothing. They track it to an optometrist, a repair job, completed just 3 days after the murders, for Lindsey Rose. Brought in for questioning, Lindsey denies everything. But under pressure, he slips. Instead of a confession, he gives them a name, Donnie. Then things get even stranger. Lindsey didn't just brag about this case to the informant. He claimed responsibility for another double murder years earlier. At first, it sounds like a lie until he mentions something impossible to guess. Oysters, a random detail, meaningless unless you know the case, because at that crime scene there had been a smashed jar of oysters, a detail never released, never reported, never shared. There is no way he could know that unless he was there. Then forensic testing confirms it. Blood found at the scene matches Lindsey. Now there's no doubt. They haven't just found a killer. They may have found a serial killer. But before they can act, Lindsey disappears. Police track down Donnie, his real name Ronald Walters, and unlike Lindsey, he talks. He says Lindsey approached him with a simple offer, $500 to help him get into a massage parlor he'd been banned from. That's all it was supposed to be. But the moment the door opens, everything changes. Lindsey forces his way inside, gun raised, and within seconds, the first victim is shot. Then Kerry arrives. What follows is chaos, a struggle, violent, desperate, and then silence. Ronald is left standing there, realizing he's part of something he never agreed to. Not long after, Lindsey is found in Adelaide. This time, he doesn't run. He confesses. First, the earlier murders, step by step, including the jar of oysters knocked from a victim's hands as they fell. Then he describes Valentine's Day, calm, cold, detached. And then he reveals something no one was expecting. Fatima Ozanal, the first victim, was never supposed to be there. She wasn't the target. Kerry Pang was. This wasn't random. It was a contract killing. The person who wanted Kerry dead wasn't a stranger. It was the man who drove her there, Mark Lewis. In the end, Lindsey said he never even wanted the job, but Mark kept pushing, calling, pressuring, until he agreed. Mark didn't just order the hit, he supplied the weapon. Mark Lewis was found guilty of orchestrating the murders, sentenced to life in prison. Ronald Donnie Walters served 18 months for his role, and Lindsey Rose was sentenced to life for multiple murders, never to be released again. By all accounts, the case was over, justice had been served. But there was one final detail. Years earlier, in 1977, Australia was rocked by the Gladesville rail disaster. A train derailment, dozens killed, hundreds injured. Emergency responders rushed in, pulling survivors from the wreckage. Among them was a young man, helping, saving lives. His name was Lindsey Rose, a man once seen as a hero would later become one of Australia's most notorious killers.